Children of God's heart, as I come to thee this day, mindful of thy longing for cosmic reunion, and yet of the pull of the senses and the delusions thereof, I desire with great longing to mitigate and to ease the path for every child of the light, and to raise each one in their consciousness to a place where the pull of the senses and the delusions thereof will have less effect to sway the consciousness of the individual, and enable him to secure for himself those profound realities of God which never pass away. The world today is a place of unrest because of the consciousness which mankind have partaken of. When they shall expand the seeds of their faith and draw to themselves greater of the power of light and love, the measure thereof being pressed down, shaken together, and then running over, in a natural release from their heart, the world shall be less constrained to enter into the vibratory action of that which is discordant, and instead beauty shall dwell and abide upon the face of mankind as upon the angelic host. The stamp of divine grace shall be apparent to all, and as the power of light expands itself across the planetary body, one hand bestowing to another an additional point of grace, blessed ones, the release of immortal substance from one chela of light to another, shall be a boon of cosmic assistance that shall sweep the planet round. Now in the interim period, when mankind choose to abide of their own free will in those lesser states of consciousness where they are surrounded with pain and the elements thereof, I tell you, the ascended masters themselves find that the limitations that mankind have accepted do prevent the manifestation of that which heaven intends, and yet it shall not always remain so. For the boons of heaven's grace do come earthward as swift arrows of light, to cause the outer actions of mankind to be brought into view, that men, perceiving their own folly and mistakes, will desire to generate a greater measure of respect for the light that streams from out the open door of God's own heart. I recall full well the measure of my own longing ere I was given the ascension flame and drawn upward into the beauteous octaves of light where I abide. And so, as I speak to you this day from those celestial realms, it is my desire to impart to you the longings of your own souls for the reunion of home. You have a song called "Keep the Home Fires Burning," and I tell you, blessed ones, the home fires are the fires of the Spirit, regeneration and reunion with those octaves of power where the limitless light of God expands without the delays incurred by mankind's intrusions of wrong thoughts and concepts. You see, blessed ones, each wrong thought and concept is like unto a door or a stone wall. It impedes and prevents the flow of the light, and the light does not pass through in sufficient quantity to enable you to maintain that spirit of elan and freedom which enables you to feel the buoyancy of celestial realms. Now when your flesh forms are able to receive to the fullest degree the radiance of spiritual power, you will find a renewing occurring there, which is essentially a transmutation of the darker substance of the world into the unfailing light of God. Then you see mortality is swept up into its own immortal concepts, and the concepts of God become the concepts of men. So long as mortal concepts occupy the brains and minds of men, how can they clearly perceive that which is immortal? For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Blessed ones, the fire of light, the fire of spiritual power, is being released now in the higher octaves. It is there for the taking, for those who are able to reach up to it. Those who prefer to remain lethargically in the octaves below may do so. There is no compelling power, blessed ones, to cause mankind to obtain the gift of divine grace against their own free will. It is never the part of the heavenly hosts' design to compel individuals to accept that which they do not want. You know, precious ones of the light, that we could, if we would, by spiritual power, and I think you will concede this, draw unto ourselves the entire earth, so that no individual upon the planet could resist attendance, for example, at one of our outpourings of light. And therefore there would be no room in the buildings of the world to contain the mankind of earth if we should send out the compelling call. Yet this is not the part of the divine plan, but rather to awaken sparks of light in the hearts of the responsive, and thereby cause them by the power of example to attract the mighty lodestone of light which will draw other men unto God. The words of the Christ, "And I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me," are fulfilled then in each Chela, who in his soul's longing for home recognizes the duality of his mission. I refer now, precious ones, to the reflected and the real, for that which is here below is in the cosmic mirror a reflection of the spiritual power and light of God. The flesh forms you wear, all substance you behold, is but a reflection of the spiritual light inherent within. Because mankind do not understand the interplay of dimensional forces, they do not realize just how this is done. And in a sense I smile as I say to you, it is a trick with mirrors. But precious ones, God is not limited by mankind's realization of science, nor is he limited by their spiritual realizations. God is able to transcend even himself, and your own mighty I Am presence is able to expand the limitless light of your being. There is no limitation in God except that which the individualized manifestation of God chooses to accept or to believe. The power of belief, the power of wrong habit, has caused mankind to be compartmented, as it were, into a framework of his own making. And few there have been in past ages that have shattered this framework and gone free to rise to octaves of purity. Now, precious ones, there is no need whatsoever for you to ever feel that you cannot shatter the framework that you have so carefully and painstakingly builded around yourself for so long. There is never any real need to confine yourself to this mortal consciousness. If you will recognize that as the eye twinkles, so the light of your presence can flash forth on the instant and cause you to be changed in the twinkling of an eye into immortal consciousness of light. You will realize that as the consciousness changes, so the human concepts also must follow the swift upsurge of the light, and therefore man must rise as his thought rises. When mankind remain bound by an attempt to categorize all that parades before them, they find that the bulk of their energies are going into a state of human judgment and criticism. All that they see then becomes a ceaseless parade of values which they desire to evaluate, that they may determine for themselves whether or not they wish to partake of it. This may seem on the surface, precious ones, as discrimination, but it differs greatly. For when an individual practices the ritual of spiritual discrimination, the individual is able to attune with the firelight of God behind mortal substance, and to perceive behind all form that supernal light. Then there is an application to the Holy Christ intelligence, whereby the intelligence itself descends and conveys the vibratory action of everything unto the consciousness with the speed of light. This does not generate an action of human criticism, but is an action of cosmic discrimination completely set apart from the outer action of mankind's senses. It does not rely upon the intellect or upon previous experience to draw its conclusions, but it acts according to the holy law of God, which loves life free. And perceiving then that which is a right action, or that which is a wrong action, cleaves to the former right action, and remains anchored therein, and spurns the wrong action as incompatible with the light of the heart. This does not mean that persons or places or conditions or things themselves are inherently bad, but it does mean that that which is acting may not be according to the highest light which is within the precious person or thing. You see, blessed ones, mankind must understand that not only do human beings act and retain within themselves the vibratory wrong actions of the senses and old outer actions which are discordant repetitions of mankind's own former crimes as recorded, but also there is a talismanic action inherent within physical substance, so that oftentimes, for example, the mere entering into a home or a building or the handling of objects will cause a mental depression to occur in the consciousness of the individual so doing. Realize then, precious ones, that it is the will of God to set you free from all outer action that is wrong or destructive, or will draw you down into a maelstrom of human despair. It is never the intention of God to see you the victims of any of these conditions, but ever the victors, precious ones. You must therefore understand the action of the great law as it pours forth through the screen of your consciousness, and enables you to perceive clearly how you ought to walk and conduct your affairs, if you will only open your hearts and minds to the supreme enlightenment of the Holy Spirit. Precious ones, as I refer once again to the talismanic action in substance, I wish to call to your attention that there are also spiritual things which have been locked within the heart of matter and substance and form, so that the ascended masters have located in various places of the earth focuses of tremendous light. There are also, unfortunately, banal focuses of evil, and those actions which do not contribute to the well-being of mankind. The discriminatory powers of the children of light, then, when called into action, will enable freedom to occur in the world of the individual, which will help each person to achieve their victory and their freedom from outer action. Now, precious ones, there is never any need for individuals to become tense about these conditions, or to walk in any form of fear as though you were walking upon eggs, precious ones. You may always, if you will, recognize that the power and pressure of your presence is an activity of light, not intended to cause you distress or pain, but intended to exalt you into the immortal consciousness that is always free from fear and the outer world's distress. When you recognize this, you will see that you can actually implant within your heart by a conscious act a renewal of the ancient covenants which God made with mankind's own soul in the beginning, that enables you to walk and talk with your own God presence as with your dearest friend. You will then not feel alone at any time, but in that wondrous communion of your soul with God in the Garden of Eden, the garden of all creation, where the purity of God manifests, you will perceive all the trees of the garden as wondrous to behold. You will recognize that the fruit thereof is for the eating and the taking and the delight of your being. But you will also recognize that now, by cosmic privilege, you are permitted to eat only of the tree of life if you would live forever. For the tree of life, precious ones, is the recognition that all of these precious gifts come from the divine source of that tree, from the root, as it were, of Jesse, from the seed of David, from the Christ consciousness, from the holy presence of God, which is anchored within your heart. I say this to you not in the sense of a generic action, but referencing this into the framework of a cosmic action, for it is the divine in man which gives to him the power of his immortality. Therefore, O gracious ones, rest in the consciousness of God and his peace always. Do not permit the outer world's action to cause you distress when the world seems to shake around about you with the vibratory actions that call forth either human sympathies or call forth the action of human condemnation of the acts of nations or peoples. Do not enter into the vibratory action of condemnation, for this is the desire of the sinister force, to cause mankind to become embroiled in many outer conditions. I do not say to you that many of these things may not cause you concern, for you may be identified in part with some of these through your former thoughts. But you must remember that the tree of life has one creator, and that creator is God. If you are to return to your own divine source, then you must not think so much of other parts of the garden of creation as you do of the tree of life, the central figure in this great garden of creation. For by partaking of the tree of life, and that alone, immortality is the fruit of your being, and then all of these outer things will eventually be added unto you in the form of dominion over them, and they will not have power over you. This, precious ones, is one of the keys and secrets of the great avatars. Not a matter of a moment, precious ones, was required by the law in order for individuals to change their consciousness from the outer periphery of the garden to the central tree of life, but a tremendous action which requires a summoning up of the powers and energies of the entire being, a drawing forth of the power of God in such a manner as to gird up, as it were, the very loins of the mind and spirit. Thus, individuals learn to control the energies of their being and not be controlled by them. This makes you, precious ones, the God of your own being. And as your own universe enters into a greater and more complete imitation of the divine, you will find the divine entering more completely into the temple of that precious life stream which you are, until the divergent stream becomes itself the sea, and the individual finds that the stream can reverse itself at will. And so the individual, who has always recognized the great current flowing through him as blending with the sea, can at will say, "O come, mighty tides of light," and the entire sea will flow backwards into your consciousness to bring to you whatsoever you desire of all of life in its great power of expansion. This gift then is given to every advanced individual who has entered into their ascension and the ritual thereof. They are able to draw from the great Akashic records and energies of the universe all that the law requires at any given moment, and they find then no condition of despair in their individuality. You see, precious ones, the gift of individuality would itself be a tremendous weakness, and mankind who would find themselves thus severed or cut off from the mighty power of God himself would be indeed bereft of all if they could not retain their contact with the all of God's being. Do you understand, precious ones, the meaning of this? Do you recognize what this is? Oh, precious ones, the gift of individuality which has been given to mankind is itself only mighty as man retains his contact with all parts of life and recognizes their right to retain contact with his own portion also, and that which he is able to contribute. For all is indeed in all, and all will indeed one day be all in all men, and all men will enter into the fullness of that which they in reality are. But the enigma, the great riddle, is of the Sphinx, spanning a mighty portion of the sands of Egypt, is not revealed to those who are not initiated into this understanding. But those of you who have a little spiritual understanding can make application to the heart of your presence, and in the understanding of this riddle know thyself as also the self of God. This, however, is not always conveyed by the mere sense consciousness's recognition of this, but must be conveyed through the very gift of the immortal substance placed within the chalice of the heart. There must be an actual mechanical conveyance rather than just a mere mental acceptance. Do you understand, precious ones, then, that this is an actual action of the power of light, an actual contact, a very definite result that comes from the power of the mind and the spirit as it accepts for itself the gift of God's grace? I have touched here upon many things, some which in themselves may seem mysterious, and there is far more behind my words than the mere framework of the words can convey for themselves. Yet I know that you who long for the realities of home will understand the need to surround yourself here with not only the instruments of outer professional aptitude, but also of the inner professional aptitude of the Spirit. You will recognize the tangibility of these gifts and graces that pertain to light and power. You will recognize that to have your lamps without the oil of these graces is indeed a potential danger to your life stream. For the cry may go forth at any moment, "Behold, the bridegroom cometh," and individuals not so supplied with the oil of spirit within their being will find themselves indeed shut up in outer darkness, where they cannot recognize at that moment the great light as it appears. Therefore I say to you, every act that you do, every thought that you think, every prayer that you utter, every service that you attend, every choice opportunity that you make the most of, is in itself an accrual of the power of light within the very treasure house of your being. Without these gifts, the way home itself may become barren and desolate as a desert. Precious ones, with these precious gifts, the way home may become as a blooming valley, as a mighty veil of love and illumination, where the flowers breaking round your feet meet the rainbows of promise from the celestial realms, and you feel no aloneness, but only the desire to find your way home and to assist all life in doing so also. In this great outsurge of the incoming light of the Christ within, you will find indeed that the kingdom of God is within you. You will find indeed that the kingdom of God is real. You will find indeed that all else is unreal. You will find indeed that I am the fullness of God's grand design, executed by his Holy Spirit within the fabric of my being, establishing there all victory forever. I am the completeness of that design, right now becoming externalized before the eyes of all. I am entering in to the fullness of all that is, into the reality of my presence, and nothing else, no lesser condition, matters at all, for I am the one consciousness alone, acting to take its rightful dominion over all lesser forms, substance, ideologies, concepts, and consequences. And thus does karma itself come under the dominion of the mighty paw of the Sphinx, who has entered in to reunion with the divine. I thank you. hearts of light, won't you please accept the pressure of heaven's love as it is poured out to you this night in anticipation of a further speeding up of the process of man's golden age consciousness, when all of the night that has hitherto been a part of man's lot is forgotten in a mighty release of cosmic glory, a sunburst of divine illumination, and the glow of the life plan of the Brotherhood for all of the earth and its evolutions. Precious ones, let go of all the disturbing elements of mankind's consciousness and feel now as though you were a babe locked in the arms of God, held there in the full and secure knowing that no harm could possibly come to you, and recognizing that the flow of universal love throughout the universe is a power far greater than that vested in any mortal creation, or than the action of human consciousness, regardless of its density. Bear well in mind, blessed ones, that the power of man's wrong thought was first derived from cosmic energy misqualified. You see then that the minute quality of cosmic energy which mankind drew forth and then misqualified has been a thorn in the side of every man from the foundation of this action. Therefore you must recognize that it is this small quantity of misqualified energy which is pitted against the mighty light of God and the love of God and the purity of God and His divine plan. I tell you, precious ones, mankind's mortal consciousness cannot stand against the unfailing light of God. The mighty blast of cosmic purity that issues forth in full-blown radiance from the heights of heaven and the heart of the mighty silent watcher is able to cope with every phantom of mankind's imagination and bring to every waiting heart the advent of the birth of the Christ consciousness within the waiting heart. When an individual, having been taught the traditions of the world, is first given the blessed message of cosmic freedom dictated from the heart of Saint Germain in the mighty law of life which he has released, it seems to most individuals as though it is almost too good to be true. I tell you, blessed ones, it is good, but it is not too good for the children of God or for any part of His creation. But it is true, and it is the eternal blessing which heaven will bestow upon you. This which you now have is but a small portion of that glory which shall be externalized in you. Will you enter now then into a state of calm knowing, a state of calm knowing that is not the turbulence of the outer world concern? Will you come apart with me this night from the thoughts that have not given you your freedom? Do you realize, blessed ones, that every single thought which mankind think when they are assembled together in a place such as this one has its effect upon those who are nigh them? You must know then, blessed ones, that the higher your thought is raised, the greater elevation can occur to all who sit with you in contemplation of our holy outpouring. Now then, that the great door of light may swing wide to the blessing of every individual who is here, let us ask for the loving cooperation of every live stream, whether aware of the full portent of our release or not, so that we may urge upon you holy compliance with the will of God, which is to exalt your thought about yourself to the proper cosmic level, where you do not feel that you are, as it were, a mere human consciousness, small and insignificant, but recognize that you are a part of the mighty outpouring of God's holy light to the earth, that you too have a part to play with the Christ radiance for the salvation of mankind and in the fulfillment of a planet's destiny. Far too long have the mankind of earth sat and groveled, as it were, in the consciousness of the outer world, and this has never brought man any degree of freedom, as your beloved and blessed Saint Germain has told you. Saint Germain and all of the masters of the great white brotherhood do not work against each other, blessed ones, but they work in a complete consonance of spirit and thought. And therefore we urge upon you this night the acceptance of the full pressure of light, the pressure of your own mighty I Am presence, so that you may become a partaker of the Holy Eucharist of the great white brotherhood's own radiance, in memory of the outpouring of Christ's consciousness from the only begotten of the Father, the one supreme release of his light into the great higher mental body of the divine all-presence, which was released then to descend as the mediator of the all-presence of God to all outer creation. You see, blessed ones, even the universe itself has a causal body, and it also has a higher mental body, and therefore the outer form of the stars and the planets and the moons and systems of worlds also have an intelligent Christ direction which comes forth from the higher mental body of the universe itself. And the vast diversified hierarchy of heaven is indeed a manifestation of the wisdom of God, which is not vested in any one single outpicturing, but in an outpicturing released through many who are given charge over a specific portion of universal substance, that they may bring that substance to perfection. This, of course, blessed ones, is typified in the release of spiritual substance into the hands of the Manus of the races, that they may go forth with the allotment of energy given to them and call forth from among mankind the perfect golden age, which shall then bring deliverance to the people of that age and take them home in that perfect citadel of glory that is the eternal ark of the covenant of God between man and between God. Do you see, blessed ones, that there is a great symbol acting here in the idea of the ark of the covenant, the covering cherubim extending their magnificent wings almost to the point of touching, the Shekinah glory of the Most High God descending then from on high in a mighty ray and flashing forth its brilliance to the high priest in the tabernacle. Mankind must recognize that the glory of heaven is of necessity veiled from mankind in the outer court of existence, where the consciousness is completely occupied with mankind's own designs and therefore is absent from the Lord. However, when an individual through the initiatic process is able to receive the great gift of the Urim and Thummim of the high priest and the breastplate of righteousness, he is able to enter into the Holy of Holies and behold the ark of the eternal covenant of his own being with the great divine presence of life. The glory that then shines forth to his eyes is most marvelous and gives him a completer sense of the power of God and his majesty. Now, blessed ones, will you contemplate with me the glory of God and forget the action of the human mind as it seeks to penetrate a multitude of thoughts and feelings concerning mankind? If you will become quiet and let your outer self relax, and let your minds also relax from thinking about those things which you can do at any time, even when you are not here, blessed ones, you will find that I will be able to do a more specific action of light for you than ordinary.
Blessed ones, I ask great calmness in this place, a stilling of all unnecessary movement, and a stilling of the mind and consciousness and feelings and thoughts. Do not feel, blessed ones, that you are any place except in the hand of God. For so long as your mind is occupied with outer things and with the body consciousness, we are not able to do the fullest that we can do for you. And there is definitely an interference then that is set up in the transmission of our words to you by your thoughts and your feelings when they are not disciplined and do not commit themselves into the hands of God. Do you see, blessed ones, I am asking for this as a boon that you are able to give, so that in this loving cooperation I am able to perform a service of light, not only for yourselves, but for others who are here to receive a final blessing in this class, which is held here in Los Angeles for cosmic purposes and as a crowning diadem of the entire California class this year. Do you see then how important it is that I should ask you to do this? Blessed ones, do not in your outer consciousness, I ask in the name of God, dare to defy this request, for while I give you free will and recognize that I will not override or attempt to override that free will, I assure you that it is most important that you do this, and it is also necessary, enable that I may confer some specific benefits upon those who require it in order to sustain a great action in their own life, which shall enable them to cooperate with the ascended masters to the completion of certain cycles in their own life. Therefore, I again say to you, there is a penalty of great portent that is attached to any individual who will insist upon having their own free will, when I have asked you as an ascended being to release and relax any feeling you may have of human thoughts, that you will therefore put your thoughts wholly upon your own God presence, and will insist and demand of your own life stream that it shall do this. For unless you will cooperate with me in this, I cannot give the measure of divine power which I would give to this audience this night. For I tell you, blessed ones, beloved El Moria, and the others who have planned this conference, have made it possible for many individuals to come here and to receive the radiation and blessings of these dictations without necessarily qualifying to the fullest extent as has been required in times past. Now, if we find out that individuals will usurp the opportunities which they have and will insist upon doing things which disturb the equipoise of our releases, we will be forced to bar the gate against the intrusion of any such individual by setting up standards which may cause distress to some individuals who themselves are indeed children of the light, completely dedicated to the unfoldment of their own divinity. Therefore, I have made this request. I have given you time to consider it, and I ask that you now will take advantage of this quiet moment to perform in the holy name of God the specific action which I have requested. I ask that your organist shall render a certain specific number of bars, which will be according to the dictates of her own conscience and feeling, as I shall direct. And during that time, I ask that absolute stillness in thought and feeling shall reign. Holy peace, flow forth like a river in the stillness wending from the heart of God, the ascended Master's peace, Christ's peace, unity of heart and soul, oneness with the mighty outpouring of light, flooding forth as a crystal fall, as over a high precipice, descending now as a radiant stream of power from the heart of each man's God presence, divinity flowing forth in strands of holy radiance, the purity of the angels, the light of the soul, the gleam within the single-eye vision, the immaculate concept. All this encompasses the world around, held in the hand of holy wisdom, held and sustained by the power of the archangels, anchored and posited in the heart of every Chohan of the rays and the ascended masters. Diligence, the outworking of heaven's pattern among men, that which bringeth forth out of shadow light, and transmutes darkness into light, and raises the vibratory action of the planet to a place where by attunement the wonders of the golden age civilizations of the past shall come again to a greater height, rising then, rising upward, and bringing forth the power of the angels among men, an increase of the healing currents of the universe that shall cause human disease itself to decay and to change its form, falling into a pit of nothingness, that it shall never be any more, that God shall wipe away by victory's hand all tears from every eye, all anguish from every soul, all weakness from all, establishing a pillar of strength from within the God flame of each heart, the pillar of fire that goes before mankind in the darkened night of the soul, and brings him across the sands of human consciousness to the land of promise, flowing with the milk and honey of spiritual energy, that men may be sustained even without the need of physical food, receiving, as the Christ of old, the meat from the hand of God, the bread of the angels, that which transmits and transmutes to mankind all that is of human consciousness, and then confers by the transmittal of light divine consciousness upon all, divine consciousness flowing forth from the ascended Master's octave into the human soul, and raising that soul to its goal, the goal created by the All-Father in the beginning, when an individual was indeed a living flame spirit, dancing, as it were, and I speak symbolically, in the very palm of God's hand, and feeling the joy of all those associated with the outpictured nature of the fire being of God. Do you know, blessed ones, that even the joy of the dance, as was brought forth in this waltz which you played this night, does depict to mankind the holy joy which the children of light feel when their spirits are touched by the power of God, even as the children of Israel danced before the Ark of the Covenant. And now, blessed ones, I ask that there come forth here now, at this moment, a specific action of the flame of the Ark of the Covenant. I ask that this flame be intensified in whiteness. I ask that every human form willing to submit to God's edict shall feel the glow of that whiteness of transmutative love. I ask that the supreme purposes of purification intended by God for every individual contaminated by guilt or by outer world action shall come forth now in the flame of the Ark of the Covenant and be transmuted, and let the individuals be changed from glory to glory as by the Spirit of the Lord. Our words, our thoughts, our actions are not a human action. they are an action of light, and therefore I invoke elemental life. And this night I shall invoke in your midst 120,000 fire elementals. O Rameses, prince of the fire element, in the holy name of God which I am, I say, bring forth 120,000 fire elementals, and let them surround this place with the unfailing light of God. Let them sweep into the atmosphere of this city and anchor themselves in full position as a cosmic flanks of light around this place, that the descending currents which we would invoke may be sustained long enough to create a specific action of ascension's flame that shall draw from Luxor, from the temple of the sacred and holy ascension fire, and from the heart of Serapis, a specific action of the ascension flame, which shall cause certain individuals in this place who have long served the light to have a specific action accomplished this night, which will mean their freedom within a short period of time, and at the specific time when they are offered the victory of their ascension. Great fire elementals, savants of the light of God, beloved ones who have served mankind for so long, I say unto you, in this place, according to cosmic design, are they who through the mercy flame of Kuan Yin and the violet transmuting flame of Saint Germain have offered themselves to God for his holy purposes, that as Cardinal Bonzano they might be raised into the victory of their ascension and know their cosmic freedom. I say now then, in the name of God, let the cosmic currents be anchored through their form, and let the spinal column and the brain and all of the blood cells themselves be given the specific action of the sacred fire, which is the descending current of God, which when it reaches the nadir of their world, ascends upward toward heaven in the victory of the ascension. Let this flame then be anchored in them, blessed ones, and let it be done now. With the touch of golden liquid light flowing through one single blood cell, in these individuals there is now anchored the beginning of an action of the ascension. The nourishment of this cell and the expansion of the light within it to spread throughout the entire bloodstream by holy attunement with the sacred fire elements will cause these individuals to be able to receive the transmutative ray of their ascension when the time and the fullness of the time has come. And that shall not be long as men count time. And yet, I ask that men do not speculate concerning this action, for speculation is not necessarily an act of virtue, particularly when it concerns the affairs of another. I know that those individuals who have received this action will know themselves exactly what has taken place, and I ask and I urge in the holy name of God that you do not discuss this with any other living soul upon the planet. I charge you before God, if you shall discuss this, there is a strong possibility that whatever has been done for you this night will be lost. And therefore I ask you to honor Saint Germain by keeping this counsel as Mother Mary did of old. In your heart, locked there, Tell no man then that which is done. Now, precious ones, the fire elementals are resting their beautiful swords of living flame, which they have extended so wondrously into the force field of this room, and they have folded their hands, their tiny hands, and with joy dancing in their eyes, they await the culmination of our action of this evening. And now I will direct a specific activity of light for and on behalf of America. I am speaking tonight on behalf of the great Karmic Board as a temporary appointee of the Goddess of Liberty to act in her name for the victory of America. Great perils are at hand for America in connection with the coming elections. It is therefore requested by the Karmic Board that the students of this light who understand the meaning of decrees and the necessity thereof will give calls for the protection of the American government and the American people against any injustice. It is requested that you shall call to the Goddess of Justice and to Saint Germain for the protection and the right selection of the proper person to be the President of the United States. I therefore call now, as an action permitted by karmic law, to beloved Sanat Kumara upon Venus for a release of the mighty golden eagle. And the eagle is descending now over the city of Los Angeles and is carrying a tremendous violet flame radiance, which is now anchoring itself within the force field of this focus of light, and it will spread its wings over the entire continent, remaining until the completion of the elections this year. I ask that you recognize that in every moment of peril to the American people, Saint Germain has come forth and has performed an action for the protection of America. And this action of this evening is also for the protection of America and the American people, and a protection of the holy light of freedom, that it be sustained, that the banner of this nation may long wave to establish the starry heights of the Constitution over the hearts of the American people and in their lives and fortunes and sacred honor. I am come then this night to bring to all of you a realization of the unity of all hearts upon the planet. For not to America alone did the Christ consciousness come, but also to the heart of the world. And the mother of the world awaits the full manifestation of the Christ as an exemplary act to all the nations of the world. And so here in this great nation, the woman crowned with the stars, and having beneath her feet the moon, stands holding in her arms the sacred Christ, child of every man's consciousness. This is not an outer form, it is an inner form, a form of the Christ image, which must come forth in the life of every individual. For although Christ be born in Bethlehem and walk the Judean hills 1,000 times, blessed ones, as has been said, unless he be born in thy heart, thou hast with him no part. Remember, blessed ones, he said it is more blessed to give than to receive. and ye have both given and received. But God is the great giver, who bestows upon America and the world the gift of divine grace. And so I say to you, O America, 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 when danger trembles in the cup of life and threatens to pour over the brink, remember that God is thy refuge and thy strength. Let the hearts of this nation then be made secure by a continuation of trust in God and the ascended masters, and let confusion disappear in the full light, the full orbed radiance of the golden flame of illumination invoked from the very heart of God. Anchored now at Lake Titicaca is the wondrous action of illumination's flame blazing from the Andes' sacred heights. Let it now blaze forth in the hearts of those able to receive it, and let all know that God watches over this nation, that his wings are spread, wings of great love, over the hearts of all of the American people, those in this activity and those outside of it. But the more individuals that will pour their adoration to him without deceit and without guile, the greater the maximum security of this nation and its people against all the forces of shadowed substance. For in light there is strength. In joy there is the sustaining action of life, and all may partake of it. And now then, as we prepare for the final burst of our cosmic fireworks, for and on behalf of America, I call to your attention that a sustaining action of cosmic joy is able to flow through your body and brain and mind for a long period from this night, if you will accept it and anchor it there. And every time a single act that tends to create sorrow is brought to the screen of your mind, if you will but call to me and think of the radiance of a pink rose charged with God's light, I will come to you, and I will also assist you in developing the wonderful spirit of the laughing waters. Do you understand what I mean, blessed ones? I refer to the joyous elementals, the undines, as they travel through the brooks and streams of America, creating a feeling of bubbling joy and cosmic mirth, and bringing to all the elementals the joy of God. You see, precious ones, within the heart of the earth there are veins of water. There are also veins of gold and silver and precious minerals. And there is a wonderful network of cosmic action, subterranean caves, focuses of a sacred fire, and the purity of Pelure's domain in the sun of even pressure at the center of the earth. Oh, precious ones, there are so many gracious and wonderful focuses of light upon this planet, and there are so many focuses of light anchored in many human hearts, that there is now no longer any cause for mankind to despair, but to let paeans of praise raised to God always from the heart, from the mind, and from the lives of all who are so blessed as to live upon this earth. Let all feel our joy released now then in limitless waves of light, and hold themselves worthy to receive it. I know that there are some individuals here who feel that they are not worthy to receive this light. Let me tell you, precious ones, to your own master you stand or fall. You have no right to judge another, nor do you have any right to judge yourself, for God has received and created you both. Therefore enter into the joy of thy Lord here and now, while yet in form. And as you enter into the joy of the Lord, you will find it easier, for the pressures of life will be released from you. And when trouble comes, you can smile at trouble, and you can say to it, I have no part with thee, and yet if you come in my direction, I will laugh you to scorn, and so shall it be. For I tell you, precious ones, The devil, that proud spirit, does not like to be mocked and cannot stand the laughter of mankind when they refuse to submit themselves to the actions even of their own karma, but acknowledge that all comes about for their own release of freedom in this day and age, that they may be children of the light and shine forth as the sun in all of its splendor and radiance. You, precious ones, are tonight filled with divine delight, and that delight will endure so long as you accept it and anchor it in your world, and do not permit yourself to enter into the vibratory action of your former state. For this is true with every ascended master outpouring. If mankind will accept it and recognize it as a precious gift from on high, and then polish it till every facet shines forth from their being, the mighty light rays that shall blaze forth from them shall act to raise them into the victory of their own ascension. All of the elemental beings of the earth now bow in acknowledgement of your heart's light and the calls you have made for their freedom. They rejoice, and they have trooped also around about this force field tonight, gathering themselves in mighty waves, amphitheater-like, around this force field, accompanying then the wondrous fire elementals, and bringing further delight to the angelic host. And now, precious ones, as I draw this to a close, I perceive afar off in the heavens Archangel Michael descending with lords of the blue flame to assist you this night in taking full advantage of the many momentums of light that have been anchored in your world through this class. Archangel Michael is some distance off yet, but he is coming very rapidly into view. He is now over the city of Los Angeles with drawn sword, accompanied by the legions of blue flame. And he has anchored himself in the atmosphere at a height of 1 mile above the city. The blue flame angels are now taking the formation of a giant pinwheel. And Archangel Michael has extended his sword toward the east, directly across the entire heart of America, as it were to dissect the very heart of America and expel every negative force from the hearts of the American people. He is beginning to swing now from the east to the west. And the blue flame angels that are with him are moving at a tremendous speed, so that it is like a giant kaleidoscope of light, all of blue flame color, with the white radiance of his robe in the center. Archangel Michael is now moving at a speed even faster than can be followed by the eye of an ascended being, for it all blends into one vast radiance of cosmic light. And a tremendous force field of cosmic protection is being established over this city. For in this city do dwell many individuals who, like Lot of old in Sodom, do decry the inequities of the people who have forgotten God and departed from purity of thought and feeling. These individuals are willing to offer their very lives to God for and on behalf of Los Angeles and the people of California as well as America. Because of the great devotion of these individuals who abide in this city, and all are not in this place, I tell you that a mighty force field of light is being established here this night and connected with the fountains of flame that were established here last year. It is our opinion, then, that through a continual manifestation of cosmic attention and gratitude to God for this gift, that the people of the entire world can be blessed and return to an Edenic state of consciousness which will enable the ascended masters to bring victory to the earth and the victory of the golden age into a great and speedy manifestation within a specific and allotted time span. I do not choose to give this out this night to any individual here in this place by direct word through this messenger. In other words, I do not choose to tell you publicly, but I am willing to confide to a special group a certain knowledge of this, if they will apply to me and then attune with their divine presence. However, there is one stipulation. I do not want an exchange of concepts between individuals. I wish whatever is given to you to be retained in your own heart again, so that there is no outer discussion of this activity, but only a determination to reinforce now and for all time the fullness of the great cosmic light that is poured out over America for the victory of the earth and for the freedom of every living man, woman, and child, and the victory of God over men. Ladies and gentlemen, I, Eriel of the light, salute you and depart, taking with me the beautiful memory of your thoughts and feelings and your devotion to the God of your being. I shall come again at the appointed time, and I hope to perform a service even greater than this night for elemental life. But the time is not yet. Be diligent, be true, be faithful and pure, and God will reward thee openly. I thank thee and bid thee good evening.
Golden days in the sunshine of a happy youth, golden days full of innocence and full of truth. In our hearts we remember them all else above. Golden days, days of youth and love, how we laughed with a gaiety that had no sting, looking back through memory's haze, we will know life has nothing sweeter than its springtime. Golden days when we're young, golden days.
And so there flows now the wondrous outpouring of our love from the Andes unto the world. And as this love flows forth, we urge that the golden armor of holy illumination's flame be placed in the consciousness of all, as though it were wrapping and enfolding them around, so that the arrows and pestilences that infest the world to this present hour may be stayed, and by the gift of divine illumination, men may walk in robes of righteousness, the right use of divine power, will make this planet reflect the golden age radiance which it is our will to expand now. And so, as I come to you this morn, it is my wish that you will feel the sweet gift of our grace imparted to you through the angelic messengers which issue forth from this retreat, carrying to your heart strands of golden substance, that you may feel also the illumination of this precious substance as it is placed by angelic hands as a circlet of light around your brow. The anointing of this holy gift is to intensify the flame of illumination and to decrease the density of the brain consciousness of man, so that the Holy Spirit of illumination may flow forth unimpeded and expand our light to the youth of the world in this hour of cosmic need, when balance is the call of the hour, and they must be taught, and they must be inspired, and they must be inspired by the power of example, and holy truth must be shown unto them, both from within and from without. They have seen bad examples. They have seen how iniquity could spread abroad across the face of the earth and lay the seeds of destruction that, according to the recorded past history of the world, has wreaked havoc upon many a nation. Now then, in this day and age, as in all time, the power of God is the fortress of life, which will give to mankind the fullness of their great spiritual need. As I am come to you this holy morn, I then come with cosmic purpose in view, bearing tidings of kindness and grace from the lovely lady Meru, who is my consort. Today, we shall not experiment, but we shall perform. We shall weave a network of light over the planetary body. And because this is the day called Sunday, we shall utilize the energies and devotion of many hearts to weave this great garment of light over the planet. And it is our intent this day that this garment of light shall resemble a coat of golden chain mail, so that we may plug the gaps in mankind's consciousness where the penetration of psychic substance passes and causes them to reinfect various areas of the world after the decrees and calls of the students of light have effectively rendered them antiseptic. We desire then that you will understand our words and will understand the purpose of our radiation this morning as issuing forth a call to light, a call to light, a call to light. Hence, that great being, the goddess of light, is joined in the upper atmosphere over this city by the Queen of Light in an action of unprecedented purity to utilize the focus of the fountains of flame that was placed here last year in expanding the consciousness of all those students of the light who have continued to call for the freedom of the youth of the world, and the power of good example to be intensified before the screen of their mind. As I come today to you then, it is, I repeat, for a specific purpose, as well as for a general purpose. For the Christ of the Andes, this magnificent statue of light, is now being charged, while I am speaking to you, by angel devas from many parts of the world, and is also being touched by a rod of power held in the hands of the angel deva of the Jade Temple. This action of purity is talismanic in action and designed to cause a spiritual white radiance of cosmic light to be released from this statue in commemoration of the cosmic Christ. And as this takes place, it is beamed out in an omnidirectional manner so as to contact the entire periphery of the earth's surface. These currents then follow the curvature of the earth and will incite a cosmic action of love and light wherever they contact the spires of worship of mankind this morning, weaving together the energies of both Christian, Muslim, Jew, and Buddhist, and the many religions of the world into a consecrated chalice and force field that the angelic host will take up and offer to the karmic board. This offering is intended to be carried directly to the great central sun and laid before your precious Alpha and Omega, not in a propitiatory sense, but in a sense of devotion. Therefore, blessed ones, this gracious offering from the hearts of mankind will cause a response to occur. For we know the law, and we know the great love of Alpha and Omega, and the immaculate concept which has been held in the great central sun magnet. To utilize this energy then of mankind is our purpose this day. We shall also use with a special ardor the energy of the students of light, those who have continued to call forth and decree for the freedom of mankind. The outpouring of this network of light is of special significance, for we hope to insulate mankind from the psychic realm as much as possible and establish a curtain of great power so that this realm will become somewhat isolated from mankind and exceedingly difficult to pierce. It is our hope that this will bring about a great wall of light between the octave of psychic substance and the human consciousness of mankind, making it extremely difficult for those individuals engaged in psychic practices to actually contact the psychic octave. The purposes of this, then, will be to free mankind from the burden that otherwise would be thrust upon them, as there is a rupture occurring in this strata and the pouring of this discordant and misqualified energy upon the planetary body and into the consciousness of the people. This will mean that many of them will be forced to rely only upon their own accumulated momentum of consciousness, and they will be unable, as hitherto, to make a contact with the astral and psychic entities of that octave. The purposes then of this holy opportunity, which I am consecrating on behalf of the expanding Christ consciousness, is to enable mankind to find a new freedom and to have released into their consciousness in the outer sense a greater portion of light from their higher mental body or holy Christ self. Do you see, precious ones, the meaning of this gift of light then to the earth this day, called forth at this Golden Age conference as a consecration of light which causes rejoicing at the angelic level and a pulsating current
of joy to sweep around the planet as the planet itself and elemental life contemplate the full meaning of this gift. Let us then determine to externalize it so that it can never be ruptured or pierced by mankind's outer consciousness. This has been needed for a long time, but has never been possible before, for there were certain requirements of the great law based on, as it were, a certain accumulation of individuals of light over the entire landed area of the earth. I am happy to report to you that the dispersion of students of light across the face of the earth is such as to make this possible when I combine the calls of the many students of light and the established focuses and present them to the karmic board. This presentation, in an a priori manner, did establish this before I came to you today, so that I had the promise and assurance that it would be done. And it is my gift of illumination to the world this day, and the gift of the goddess Meru, but it is more than that. It is the gift of the cosmic hierarchy and of the entire spirit of the great white brotherhood. And it will mean a great deal to the freedom of mankind. I assure you that. Won't you please be seated? Most gracious ones, as I am speaking to you, there is a gradual stepping up of our radiation in your midst. And this, of course, is a direct result of this action, whereby there is a seclusion of mankind from the octaves of negation. Of course, you must recognize, blessed ones, that mankind's mind and feeling world, which has been previously externalized, remains and must be guarded against. This does not mean that you discard your decrees. It does not mean that you are not alert. It does not mean that you rest on your oars, as it were, nor does it mean that your tube of light and violet flame action is not necessary. For you must continue to consume all externalized human creation which you have. It does give you a special assistance in preventing you from tying in to the astral and psychic world, as was hitherto the unfortunate happenstance that occurred to many individuals, particularly when they were in a state of great fatigue and unable to hold, or so they thought, their contact with their divine presence. Now, precious students of the light, the youth of the world have been victims of this intense malpractice of the tools of the black magicians, which has caused them to become victimized in a manner which long ago occurred in South America and brought about the destruction of some of the most magnificent civilizations which were externalized there. Your own precious Saint Germain is well aware of how an intense focus of light was held for so long there, and yet the so-called brothers of the shadow did indeed wreak their havoc upon the minds of the youth of those ages long past, and brought about the downfall of civilizations established there. Now it is our intent to utilize the energy of the students in America and throughout the world in a most constructive manner, that the great divine director may find a haven of refuge to establish in South America the great retreats of light, which will be established as the incoming seventh root race takes their full position and authority in physical embodiment. You must understand, precious ones, the meaning of all this to the planetary unfoldment and also to the incoming of the great golden age. There are individuals, I am well aware of, who have somewhat wearied of hearing of the golden age and not seeing it manifest. And this, of course, is understandable, for mankind do not see as we do all of the inner action that takes place. They get a mere glimpse of a spot, as it were, of action upon the earth, whereas we have the complete omnidirectional consciousness that takes into account not only all action on the entire face of the earth, but also the action of past ages, and is able to draw instantaneous comparisons and to read the charts of all of those past actions and compare it in a most relative sense with that which is currently taking place. We do not require the use of calculators or scientific machinery in order to do this, for we do it with the power of light and with the speed of light and with the joy of the angels. and we are able then to give our results directly to those individuals who will attune with us and inspire them to understand what is happening upon the earth, that they may cooperate with the angelic host. Now I wish to make clear at this time that it is not the plan of God to keep mankind in the dark, but to illumine mankind always. This has ever been the plan of God. But so long as individuals kept their consciousness tied to material things and substance of the world and the strata of the world's consciousness, it has not been possible to send forth the radiance of illumination and have them be receptive to it at the precise moment when it was most needed. This I am sure you can understand, for all of you are well aware that there are times when you are just a little bit out of tune, precious ones, with your own God presence, and you are not then able to make the contact which would be of such great assistance to you. And therefore I urge you to not submit to the idea that you can be directed into a state of consciousness or pulled down, as it were, and magnetized to the dense gravitational pull of the earth and the consciousness of men. Accept the idea that the power of light above you is so much stronger and greater, and it truly is, that there is never any need for you to endure, even for so long as 1 minute, precious ones, the negative consciousness of the world. The moment that you recognize what is acting, you may make your calls to your presence, and on the instant, with the power of light, the presence will answer that call. If you will enter into the full assurance of this, and will realize that this is being done, it will assist by a pressure of light your own blessed selves in rising into a higher momentum of achievement, whereby your calls will be answered much sooner and speedily. I am sure you are aware of the fact that many of the early students of light in this specific activity, when the law first came forth, were able to achieve most magnificent actions, and still do. Nevertheless, some of the students of the light today have grown weary in a sense of well-doing because they have accepted too much of the pressure of mankind's divisionary action. Now I will explain to you this morning exactly what I am referring to. I am referring to the fact that human schism entered in many cases, into the action of the children of light, where individuals were gathered together and formed a body or a group of servers acting in a specific manner for the light at various locations upon the earth's surface. The sinister force would direct, through human action and conduct, some form of divisionary activity based upon the human ego. This often took the form, precious ones, of criticism, condemnation, and judgment of the leaders. In some cases, this might have been merited in the sense that the leaders were not always manifesting the full action of their own divine self. But then neither were some of the students, and therefore there was wrong on both sides. Of course, capital gains were made of this by the sinister force and the negative powers of the world in order to create a division that would weaken the powers of light, for they knew that in union there was strength, and by dividing they were able to conquer the individuals and cause them to go down under the power of human negation. And therefore the great divine plan was thwarted, and mankind themselves were not exalted and lifted up, as was the part of the divine plan. All of this I think you can easily determine for yourselves if you will meditate upon it, for it is a truth which is self-evident. And yet it is a strange thing, blessed ones, but these most self-evident truths are sometimes relegated to the attic and the basements of life, where they do not come forth when they are needed. And many falsehoods, many corrupt ideas of consciousness, forms of criticism and condemnation of others, seems to come forth with great ease and occupy the consciousness of mankind. The accent is so often placed upon wrong and upon density, rather than upon light and purity. This, blessed ones, is the reason why we have so often stressed to the student body of light the great need to hold the immaculate concept. If you hold the immaculate concept for your fellow men, blessed ones, you intensify the power and pressure of light within your own force field, and you send forth light unto others, and therefore, do you see, you must receive light in return. It cannot be otherwise. But if you hold in your consciousness other thoughts that are negative in concept, or you perceive, even though it may appear to be so, some flaw in the character of another, you are also intensifying this same flaw in the force field of your own world. For the seeds of destruction, when they were first sown, permeated the entire consciousness of all mankind upon earth. For there is a so-called common body, which mankind are not always aware of, so much so that whenever one individual falls a little bit, it pulls down the entire common body of mankind, the collective consciousness. Therefore, precious ones, you see, when any individual upon the planet rises or ascends in consciousness or is given the gift of their ascension, it raises the entire collective consciousness of mankind just a little bit closer to the Godhead. And therefore it is the intention of the great goddess Meru this morning to intensify the feminine ray in your midst while I amplify the masculine ray, so that you will understand that the action of building this coat of golden chain mail is not an action of 1 second, but is being accomplished in part while I am speaking, and will be intensified in the days to come as you call for the amplification of the action which took place this morning. And therefore we have asked the Queen of Light to radiate a great ray to an old and secret temple in South America, and to open that temple this morning in order to release a specific quality of light that is related to the action of the 2 secret rays, so that mankind will have an additional momentum in this hour of the world's peril that has not been released ever before. Now, as I am speaking to you, she is directing an action through the power of the angelic host, and the door of this ancient temple, which has been sealed, is coming open to bring about an action of the 3 times 3, which will intensify the action of the 3 times 3 and give Saint Germain at least twice as much energy as he has ever had before to assist the freedom of this earth in coming into manifestation. Thank you. Won't you please be seated? Precious ones, mankind do not know the intense action that has been directed into the world in connection with the world's problems. They sometimes gaze upon these problems, and it seems as though they are fascinated by them, for they seem so momentous and monumental. They are like monoliths standing with sharp points, and it is as though mankind fear lest they be pierced by these monoliths of unrighteousness. We recognize, precious ones, that the pages of history are stained with an intense action of negation, with a gross action of mankind's warfare that has created bloodshed and human vanity and strewn this over the entire pages of history. But I would like to point out this day that while this outer action has been going on, there has been a tremendous cosmic action of light in every age, even during the period so-called Dark Ages, when certain individuals held a focus of light for the planetary body. These precious individuals, so often unrecognized, unsung and unknown, did create then in the force field of their own being a proper state of consciousness which enabled them to tune in with the cosmic hosts, the angelic hosts, and the great white brotherhood. We used many of these individuals to hold the focus for the earth at a time when the entire planetary body would have gone down under if it had not been for the magnificence of these life streams. Do you see then that there has never been an hour so dark in the history of this earth that some individual has not held the contact with their own great God presence? Their radiance then, and the power of light through them, though it may have seemed small and puny beside of the massive concrete action of mankind's darkness which covered the earth, was a sustaining power which penetrated through elemental life, the wondrous substance of virtue. And I want to tell you that among the elementals, under the direction of beloved Virgo, under the direction of beloved Prince Arameses, under the direction of beloved Neptune, Lord of the sea, and under the blessed direction of beloved Aries, there was established through a certain number of volunteers among the elementals a specific action which drew the power of light, which the individuals held as a focus for mankind and scattered it across the entire planetary body into nature itself, so that light was a garment across the face of the whole earth. Otherwise, you see, blessed ones, when mankind were imbued with the fig leaf consciousness, as depicted in the early Edenic scene, they would have felt so naked before God that they would have actually entered into a state of almost complete apathy and unwillingness to lift themselves up from the degradation into which they had fell. But because some individuals held this focus, the mighty light rays continued to pour forth a stream of energy to the earth, and elemental life, blessed ones, held that focus for mankind when the masses were unable to do it. Will you not then pay tribute to those blessed elementals and all that they have done, without even, in most cases, the thankfulness of the gift of immortality conferred upon them, because they had to do a specific action which many of them were not able to do, of entering into the human kingdom and passing on into the angelic host. You see, blessed ones, the blessed elementals have so little hope beside of yourself for immortality. For although you were made a little lower than the angels, what a blessed crown of light there is awaiting for each one of you and for all mankind when they are ready to throw off the yoke of human oppression that divides hearts from hearts and accept the fullness of the Christ radiance. Thank you. Won't you please be seated? Now, precious ones, with the great release of substance, of light that is pouring forth across the planetary body this morning, I would like to tell you also that we are using some of the political focuses of the world, such as the Washington Monument, and we are tying in to the mighty ray that is anchored there as a silent sentinel for and on behalf of America. The action of light this morning is actually weaving strands of great cables and extending these cables to tie all of the monuments that are constructive across the face of the earth into one vast network of light. Then the angelic hosts are contacting persons and places and conditions and things which are vibrating with an action of light, and all are being interwoven into this marvelous pattern. This is going to mean a tremendous boon to the earth in this day and age, but it will require the attention of the students in order to reinforce and establish it so that it may be a permanent action for the earth. Do you see what I mean, blessed ones? In other words, this is an etheric gift which we are conferring upon the earth this morning, and this gift requires a specific action of mankind's attention being fed into it in order that the power of light may retain this power of the golden chainmail armor, anchoring mankind into the purity of his divine radiance. I thank you, and I am counting on you, as is the lovely goddess Meru, to sustain this action of mighty assistance poured out in this day to the earth and all mankind upon it. May God's grace be amplified without limit.